Hi, how's it going? This is Resident of Collinwood for YouTube, back with another read-along review to Benight for Beguile. I swear I'll be able to talk. Um, Book 6, Chapter 3, Caroline's Choice. The smell of fresh-cut roses filled the morning air inside a little parlor cottage in town, where Caroline Taylor carefully fixed up a bouquet for a center table, table. Her hands were shaking. She felt the nerves tightening of her stomach muscles as she heard an upstairs bedroom door open, and her brother, the conniving Welshport Globe reporter Baxter Murphy, came down and into the parlor. He was hungry, not for breakfast, for Caroline's Lord family intel. He, with the help of a trusted ex-romantic liaison, had purposefully set Cora up as Gabby's nanny teacher so that she could secretly gather sensitive information on the most powerful and wealthiest family in their community. Baxter's motives were for fame and fortune, for writing a future salacious expo on the Lords. The ex-lover, too, had their own anomalies in reasoning. Hey, you're here, Baxter noted, realizing that if she was home, she must have had something to spill. What what do you got for me? He added as he sat on the sofa while buttoning one of his cufflinks. What do you mean? She replied coyly as she fiddled with the roses. He cleared his throat, noticing the way she was trying to avert telling him what she knew and saw the night before at Terramore House. A tactic he recognized from their youth when she was confronted as a child for her bad behavior by their parents. You said you had something for me about the Lords, so spill it, he pushed. Bax, listen, I don't know if we should do this after all. Caroline said, fluffing the roses with her hands as the guilt of what they were doing filled her body like the water in the vase in front of her. What? What do you mean? We agreed this is what we need to do to get out of this dump town. If the money I'd make from the article I'd write, or even the blackmail we we get uh, would get us to New York by Christmas, Cora, we agreed. Uh, I don't know how I'll be able to sleep at night, knowing that I'm going over there to help that little boy learn to communicate with his family, all the while gathering up what I see and hear there and report it back to you. Gabriel has suffered enough. I can't be a part of ruining his life for a quick payday, she replied, as she turned from the roses to face her brother. Gabriel has suffered. He's not even 2 years old yet. He doesn't know his nose from a toy ball. He'd never know you had anything to do with this. Actually, sis, you're doing him a favor by exposing his rotten family, Baxter said quickly, jumping to his feet. I don't know, she replied as he walked over to her and put both hands on her shoulders. Look at me, he said, their eyes meeting in the bright morning sun-lit room. This is going to happen whether you help me or not. To find anyone else to do this, I really can. There are 100 people in this town that'd kill to get in on this for a quick payday. But with you helping me do this, we can control what is said and what is not said about them. Keep the cash in the family. There's something you don't think I should put in an article when it's all said and done. I won't. So go on. It's new at Terramore. Caroline took a breath as Baxter picked an apple to munch on. She wanted to trust her brother. He was her only family left. He was the only family she had really ever known, as their parents both died before she turned 10. Their relationship was close. He was 7 years older than her and raised from the age of 10. Caroline was a child that came to the Baxter family when she was just a small baby. Adopted at a few weeks old, she had already had her day. The Murphys were told she was called Caroline. Her adopted parents, John Murphy and Gina Taylor Murphy, never looked back, took her in, and loved her from day one. The little daughter they had always wanted. Baxter, too, was incredibly fond of her, but had always wanted to know where she came from. His investigation obsessions, starting at an early age, in secret he had searched and discovered her family, never telling Cora the truth. Baxter believed would be too much for Caroline. It would be too drastic a change to find out where she really came from and how far she traveled. Instead, Baxter chose to keep it to himself, raise her after their late parents passed away, and in time perhaps use this knowledge to his advantage. Like now, Baxter's eyes softened, waiting for his little sister to say what she had learned overnight, and he bit into the ruby red apple. It's about Evie Lord, she began. What about her? Let me guess. Did she have some kind of secret debt before she died? Lover? What? He prodded. She took a breath before saying, She's alive, Baxter. She is actually alive. Carolyn answered to Baxter's gasp. Something bizarre happened the night she supposedly died. Something was miscalculated with some medication Nicholas gave her, or a nurse, or something, and the medication made her appear dead. They buried her, Bax. They buried her alive, and no one. Oh my God! The reporter replied, stunned and gleeful. That little boy's mother was had, was in a grave 6 feet underground, suffering, and when she came back to the house, Gabriel wasn't even hers anymore, not legally yet. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you, kitty. Sorry. Oh, where was I? Sorry. Anyway, Jacob Sliss filed papers with the court to take custody of him. Yes, I know, Baxter said again, his mind racing on how he could weave this news into a story. But how did she get out of the grave? She dug herself out? No, she said Sebastian saved her? How do you know Celeste and Jacob filed those papers? She asked, circling back to his confirmation. Sebastian? What are you talking about? Sebastian died too, Baxter shouted. But there was a pause in Cora's response. Didn't he? Baxter shouted again. Seeing the story was going into a place he never knew, she was silent and only stared at him with a look that signaled she was unsure. Baxter pushed answers. Cora. Of course, she shot back, suddenly coming out of the trance. Of course he died. She stammered. We all know he died in a fire at Rebecca's family home, the forest. Evie was hallucinating, Baxter. She had to have been. She must have dug herself out. She came in covered in dirt. Her fingernails are ripped to nubs. She was scratched and bruised. No one saved her but herself. Of course, it's still with a lingering thought that Evie said what she said and seemed that's not going to leave you alone. Third, very true, Sebastian. Cora said, still with a lingering thought that Evie, what she said, and seemed very sure of Sebastian saving her. Evie doesn't seem the type of woman to make something like that up. She saw Sebastian. Maybe she was telling the truth, Baxter added. Cora rolled her eyes, finally showing some frustration with the whole topic. She hallucinated, lack of oxygen and all that. No, 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 no. This is it. This is what I've been saying for years now. They're hiding something, sis. They're hiding something about Sebastian that we just don't know. It's always been about him, don't you see? How many times did that man go missing? And that family came out with some ridiculous explanation. He was kidnapped. He was sick. He died in a fire. Whatever. Now their golden girl Evie gets buried alive, and suddenly he came to save the day. She wouldn't make it up. A hallucination is not something made up. She really thought she saw him. Cora began before Baxter interrupted. Maybe she did. Sebastian's life was never the same again after his supposed kidnapping at his wedding 3 years ago. They're hiding something about him, but what? What could it be? I'm finally going to be the one to expose it once and for all, the reporter replied. Listen to me. If you go up against the Lords, you may live to regret it. It's too dangerous, his younger sister added, and followed up with something Baxter had mentioned. Wait, how did you know about the court filings for Gabriel's guardianship before I told you? Caroline asked, her voice growing more and more impatient. Then there was a knock at the door. Baxter did not answer her. As he quickly left the parlor, Caroline closed behind and opened it to reveal his Baxter X and his scheming cohort in the parlor to take down the Lords. Lear Lockwood. You're just in time, Baxter said to his ex-lover. Lear did not say a word and entered the house. What's Lear doing here? Caroline asked, knowing he the one who not only got her the job, the Lords, but was also the lawyer who helped Celeste and Jacob. Baxter sighed. Cora, why are you acting like this is all new to you? Morning, Cora, Lear said. New to me? She asked confused. What do you mean? Caroline, think about it. Lear answered her. We're in this together. Every time you're working at Caroline, I'm there, beating he confirmed the hint of sarcasm as he turned to Baxter. I was there too. I heard what you said about Sebastian. There's no doubt in my mind they're hiding something about my dear cousin. Lear has his own reasons for wanting to smear his Aunt Rebecca and her family back together. They've been planning something like this for a very long time. She confirmed it was true. Since the day Lear and Baxter met, they had created a very close alliance that would soon build into something more. The two fell in love with when Lear was just a young law student. Baxter studied journalism at the University of Massachusetts, Salem. There was a secret love that they kept close to their hearts, but Baxter's younger sister Caroline, knew. She only wanted what was best for her brother, even if her, even to her, her love felt dangerous. Those days were long gone. Lear and Baxter fell out of love years ago, very close friends and co-conspirators. Their passion for getting the dirt on the Ford family was much more powerful and was probably the backbone of their relationship to begin with. An unhealthy connection at best. Wait, Lear, you've been behind this too? You both planned on having me go there and get information together? She asked. They both nodded. We didn't know in what capacity we'd get you in at Paramore, but Gabriel's hearing loss and your knowledge and signing ability was most fortunate coincidence. We had to get we had to act fast. Listen, I know you must feel used, but don't. Once we expose the family for the corrupt and dangerous people they are, they'll benefit you too, your answer. No, I don't want any part of this anymore. I just told Baxter that I think it's wrong. We just can't decide who are the good people and who are the bad people, and whose family secrets are up for grabs to publish and use as some kind of ransom. It's wrong, even if when they're your own secrets to tell. Lear asked as Baxter quickly yanked on Lear's coat sleeve, signaling he was saying too much. Mine, she replied. Baxter nudged Lear to keep quiet and stammered to correct him. Lear only means that you were at the house when you came home, and said what she said about being buried alive. You experienced it, so you had all the right in the world to talk about what you say and what you heard freely. Words don't own your experience, Baxter replied, but it's wrong. I'm seeing out their personal tragedies. Lear locked wood at Lear looked at Baxter's lifted brow, then turned back at Carolyn. You are either in or out, Cora. Can't have any floundering like I said. This will eventually affect you too. How, she asked. Just that because, you and I are a team, he stammered again. Whatever I make in this deal, you make. I take care of you. Take care of me, Baxter said. Caroline, don't. Caroline didn't know what to do. She hated what she was doing. She had grown so fond of little Gabriel, but the thought of her being a part of something that might blow up his entire family's life even more than it already had sickened her. But she knew that she had stepped in too far. No matter what, she did, no matter how much she pushed back, Baxter would always convince her that they were doing best for themselves, and that in the end it would work out better for everyone involved, exposing the truth of a family that much power that had much money as corrupt liars who took advantage of their community with their wealth and influence over judges, political kingpins, royalty, to the media in which they controlled would serve everyone for the best, especially Baxter, who'd certainly gain a fortune for his exposure and who had many, many years of hurt and betrayal at the hands of his lord cousins to contend with. I have to get to Terramore. I'm late, Carolyn said, essentially locking herself back into the plot. Take good notes, as Baxter said with a vicious grin. Caroline narrowed her eyes, grabbed her coat, and rushed out of their shared cottage and down. Lear turned and looked at his ex and current co-conspirator, took a deep breath. How long before we tell her? I don't know if I can keep letting her go to Terramore without her knowing everything. She deserves the truth, too. Baxter scoffed. Don't get soft on me. This was your idea in the first place. We'll tell her everything when the time is right, Baxter answered. She'll have to know soon. I see her cracking already. It's killing me. Fine. Listen, Cora's in the right place at the right time. Once it's all out in the open, and she's why we did it, it'll be fine. I've known her my whole life, don't worry. Just think of it as an added plus to what we're already doing. Rebecca's family. I'm sorry, to Rebecca's family. She'll know exactly what kind of people they are and what they are capable of. Lear rolled his eyes. My father told me that Rebecca took everything from him and left us destitute, broken. She hoarded all the Lockwood money and paid people off to make sure he didn't get a cent of his inheritance he deserved just as much as she did. Father died incredibly broken-hearted. She didn't come to his funeral. So yes, I would love to rub salt in the witch's wounds and expose more of my family's monsters. But I'm worried that it's at the expense of Cora. What we've learned about her will backfire. I've learned that the hard way. Across Rebecca's family, she attacks. We have to be strategic here. This is the Lear I fell in love with, strategic and calculating, always looking out for number one. Problem is, me trying to figure out who in your mind is number one, Baxter joked, as Lear's cold side showed a little more. Hearing that made Lear feel sick. Wasn't truly a terrible person, not like Baxter, but he wanted to send a message to the Lords once something came out. His father's death has finally seen some kind of justice. Once the Lords were put in their place by him, their own cousin, having his cruel ex Baxter try and make them look at same as if they were both doing this. The same reasons made him feel sick to his stomach, but not enough to pull the plug. You fell in love with the idea that you could get close to the Lords through me, and you found out I was related to them. And of course you were right, but that'll be over soon. Once it's done, Lear reminded his ex their long broken off relationship. Baxter shrugged and poured himself a small cup of coffee that Caroline had left in a kettle on the table. Parlor. She'll have to know, about everything soon. About Caroline feeling as if she made a deal with the devil at Caroline's. Yeah, she made the devil at Caroline's expense. I said be patient, Baxter charged. She'll have to know, Clear insisted again, as he inched his way to the front door. Baxter took a sip of coffee and lifted a brow. Not until I'm ready. We'll keep what we know about her on our back pockets until the time is right, if it is necessary. They're nodded and pulled out a large envelope hidden inside his coat. Good. So you'll show her these, he added, tossing the envelope on the table. That's why I came. I finally got them. Peter got up from the sofa with the coffee in his hand and walked over to the table in the foyer where Lear was. The envelope Lear had him, the whole reason for his visit, had a label on it marked Caroline T. Murphy. Keep it safe, Lear said, and left the house. Baxter took the envelope and held it tightly to his side. He realized time was ticking on the truth for Caroline. Morning in Maine. Meant late afternoon in London. Genevieve Thorne did not come back to Christopher's flat that morning. In fact, he hadn't heard from her since that night she left, promising more was to come with her idea to get justice for both the dead Sabrina and presumed dead David. In truth, he'd not slept well. He had horrible dreams again. He tossed and turned and worried all night, and not allowing Genevieve to his world might have been a giant mistake and were the cause of his many sleepless nights. For as Christopher packed a sea bag, headed out for an evening trip on the river Thames to catch his dinner and maybe extra fish to sell, there was a knock at the door. Through the frosted glass of the window on the door he could see the shapely figure of a woman. Paused, unsure if it was Genevieve or someone else. He shook off his paranoia and opened the door to find that it was indeed the beautiful raven-haired Genevieve. Good evening, she said as she took a step closer in his doorstep, but he blocked her. Hi, Christopher replied. She looked around confused. May I come in? I don't know, he said, a worried tone in his voice. What is it? She asked. What's the matter? Can't shake this feeling that's been nagging at me all night since you left all day today. I don't think I want any part of whatever you're planning. Shake a person, Christopher said, but you don't know what I'm planning. This partnership could save lives. Please let me in and we can talk about something, Genevieve said. Christopher took a breath and stepped aside, allowed her to enter his tiny London flat, feeling as if he'd just gone against his better judgment. So go on, tell me, what has you spooked? She asked. He rolled his eyes. That's not funny, she sighed. Christopher, I'm not making jokes. Please tell me what's the matter. I want to be able to explain everything to you. You have to tell me what your apprehensions are. Last night when I left, you seemed like you were eager and ready to help us. Now something has changed. She was right, something had changed. Actually, change was something that had been happening to Christopher ever since he came to London, his dreams. All his time in London, Christopher had dreams of things he did not understand. They were visceral, vivid dreams that showed him in a place he did not recognize. He had these dreams for years since he came to London, and had never really thought anything of them until one he had last night after Genevieve had left. In this dream, Christopher was again in a place he did not recognize. Inside a giant stone-crafted mansion in a foggy forest, he walked around the little floor of the mansion. As he walked down the red carpet hallways, past several mirrors, saw his own reflection, just like he had in similar dreams. This time, there was a difference in the reflection. He saw himself in double form. The double of himself stood off to his side, but did not mimic him. In fact, his double was not even dressed them same as him. Christopher remembers turning to his own reflection, and they faced each other almost nose to nose. Only two words were exchanged. The double of Christopher said to him in an unfamiliar voice, it was not his own, saying, help her. What's making you like this, Christopher? Tell me, Genevieve asked. I'm worried about what you said, the story you told me. I'm worried that it's all true, Christopher confessed. Because it is all true, and that's why I need you, Genevieve said as she stepped close to him, grabbing his shirt, both hands pulling him in close. I can't do this without you. People could get hurt, he said. Right. People who will get hurt by my plan deserve it. How? How will they get hurt, Christopher? Jacob Ford deserves to feel the pain he caused David and Sabrina. Sabrina's life was snuffed out by monsters' hands, and tried to make David pay his crime, causing David, well, end things for himself. Return with me and do something. Send Jacob on such a tailspin would fall on his own sick sword, Jamie explained, leaving part of it to Christopher's imagination. And his own sword, you mean, meant for him to hurt himself. Genevieve's eyes narrowed. She lifted a brow, and a coldness fell onto the room. She took a breath, and when she exhaled, a white puff of breath came out of each of her nostrils. Christopher felt this, the cold, too. Odd, because his home was warmed by the fire. Right next to him was Sabrina's presence, showing herself inside of Genevieve, the ghost of the woman whose life had been taken by Jacob, now dwelled inside. Genevieve was there and now speaking through her host's body. I intend for Jacob to take his own medicine. What he's done can no longer be left for the universe to solve, she said when she looked deep into Christopher's eyes. Please, please help. He stood there and saw her face soften. The hardness it showed. She spoke of Jacob. She truly needed him and truly believed that together they could finally make some sense and get some justice over the decade-long travesty that was the murder of Sabrina Spencer Lord. The air warmed He could feel the tip of his nose again, and the white puffy breaths were now back to their invisible shapes. What would we do? He asked Tom. Together we'll return to Welshpool. Everyone is expecting me home soon, as I have my son there. I miss him and I should get home as fast as possible now that I have found you by you, David explained. But I'm not him. I don't know how many times I have to tell you that. She smiled sweetly. I know you're not him, she said, still unsure if she truly believed that or not. Doesn't know that Jacob won't know what to believe. No one knows what happened to David, not truly, and once they all see your face, David is as good as alive. It's just the beginning of life then, she furrowed his brow confused. What else? We're going to make Jacob believe his life has been cursed for all wrongdoings. He'll see his brother, a man he believes is dead, gone, walk the halls of their former home once again. He'll see David as real as flesh and bone. But every time he tries to reach for you, he'll vanish because to everyone in the world, David is dead. Jacob will think David has returned to take him to hell, where he longs for being, doing what he did to Sabrina. Going to make him think he's being haunted, Christopher asked. Exactly. All the secret passages I discovered when I was in Paramount to come in and out without being noticed. Jacob will go insane. Jacob's mind will be devoured the monstrous things he did in his past. Make it happen. When he can no longer take the madness festering in his mind, and will convince Jacob to move on from his world, however he sees fit, she explained. Christopher's eyes widened with wonder on how planned and calculated Genevieve was, or was it Sabrina speaking? And that works. What then? What do you think Jacob will do? He asked. Genevieve slowly turned to the warm fire of the earth and extended her hands so her palms could feel the heat. Destroy himself, she said softly to Christopher Shaw. And if it doesn't work, he asked her. She paused and hurt her lips. Then I'll take a shot, she answered. She opened up a small purse that hung from her shoulder and removed a small revolver she had purchased earlier that day from a small shop in London. Headley Circus. It was her own form of insurance policy. Jacob would die for his crime. I don't know. I don't know if I can do all this, he said. Imagine if this were you, Christopher. Imagine being David, hearing your brother lie to you, tell you that you strangled your beloved wife on a beach and killed her, mother of your child, a woman you love. Then life itself, imagine having the heavens in you to the point where you see the balcony of the lighthouse and jump off. Guilt. True, it wasn't you. Never did it. That is what happened to David. That is what Jacob and David and his son Sebastian. Christopher Galt wasn't hard for him to think of this scenario at all. In fact, he felt rather familiar. He then shook his head in disbelief. what he was about to do, but did it anyway. He agreed to help. "Where did you come up with the idea?" he asked her. "It was Sabrina," she replied. Her heart sank in his chest. "Sabrina, David's dead wife." Genevieve nodded. "It's a page right out of Jacob's own sick playbook. He did this to Sabrina's daughter-in-law, Evie. She first arrived, he had Sabrina's son, Sebastian, murdered, and tried to make Evie think his ghost was haunting her, wanted her to go mad, wanted to take his own life, her own life, so that she wouldn't go haunted by Sebastian's ghost. It was all a farce. It was all made up. A trick that every step of inheritance and Sebastian will both fall into his hands, Sabrina showed me. "My God," Chris replied. "She showed you this?" Christopher asked. Genevieve nodded. He did not reply, only expressed the saddest facial expression Christopher had ever seen come from her beautiful face. It's clear he's not the only one having dreams of like. Suddenly Christopher dropped a shock of his own. "What of their son? How is he? How has he grown up well? Is he kind? It's what a grown man now, isn't he?" he asked. Genevieve lifted a brow. "Their son?" she asked curiously to see how he replied. "What do you mean? Why do you want to know?" "You said something about their son just now. I was curious what became of him. How he has been through all this. That's all," Christopher said softly. Genevieve lifted a brow. Christopher was indeed a mysterious figure. Was Christopher at all? His curiosity over Sebastian was giving her some doubts. Unfortunately, Sebastian died in a fire. She finally said, not wanting to push the topic of what she did or didn't tell him first encounter. Christopher's face turned white as a sheet. After a few seconds of silence, he took a breath. The awful blues washed over him, a fresh from the ocean floor. No, Christopher said in a hushed, sad voice. "From what I've heard, it was very awful. Sebastian lived a very troubled life the last few years, as you can see. Even David, Sabrina's son, suffered from this." "Yes," Christopher said softly. "If you're afraid of the ramifications, I promise you something. I hold on everything I hold dear. Not a single person will now anything. Jacob will take his own life. Any connections to you will be non-existent. They'll never even know you'll be just a figment of Jacob's insanity. I promise you," she said. But of course it was more than that. Christopher wasn't afraid of any ramifications. His life was full of those for his own past. There was also the idea of going home to America and facing everything he ran from. But there was Genevieve's natural horror, her beauty, face that seemed like it came from a world away. Placing Christopher's fondest memories, he felt as if he could stare at her all day, all night, forever. Her fine blue eyes that sparkled, smiled, cold, his sudden, rough exterior. "Give me one more day. There's a market day tomorrow. Come with me, and we'll make plans to leave after that," he said. Genevieve agreed and again dug into her purse and moved two tightly folded slips of paper tickets aboard the ship called the Beguile that would soon set sail for America, with or without the mysterious Christopher Wesley aboard. "We're booked, Christopher," she said, showing him the tickets and position. His name she was starting to feel did not truly belong to him. Back in Welshport, an afternoon warmth filtered through the highly silver clouds at Welshport Hospital. Dr. Peter Ward carried a thickly picketed clipboard of patient files he was going over with the new nurse on staff. He showed Nurse Holton, who had come to Welshport Hope as a personal transfer from Massachusetts, on the grounds of the main hospital. The adjoining mental ward across a large arch and grass area of the campus. They made small talk, and she thanked him for allowing her to transfer so far out of the local area to a new hospital to work. "There's nothing you need to thank me for, Danielle," Dr. Ward said, using Nurse Holton's first name. "You came very highly recommended by your attending doctor in Cambridge. What made you come all the way out to this little place?" Danielle smiled happily at the news of her recommendation and entered back into the main hospital. "Family obligations," she replied. "My mother recently passed away and left me her home. Since my father left her, that was all she said," Danielle explained. "I'm sorry to hear that. Your father never came back, even after your mother died?" Dr. Ward asked. Danielle shook her head. "He never even said goodbye," Dr. Ward sighed. "So, the patient you mentioned as Miss Jordan Lord, how is she after all?" Danielle wondered, quickly changing the subject of her sad past. "Yeah, Stevie, she's doing surprisingly very well after the terrible things she endured while being under medication. And if you can believe a grave, she's doing very well. She is the sister of our own Dr. Jordan here on staff. He attends patients across the way in the sanitarium. You'll get to know him. He's taking some time for family issues for obvious reasons, but he'll return soon," Dr. Ward explained. "It's truly a miracle she survived," Danielle added, to come back to life in a way for a brand new full moon. "I'd say is something else." Dr. Ward chuckled. "A full moon, huh? Do I sense a bit of superstition in you, Nurse Holton?" Danielle smiled back. "A bit, Doctor. I know we should be more scientific around here, but I can't help it. I take after my father. He was very superstitious when I was growing up." Dr. Ward assured her there was nothing to be ashamed about. He reminded himself of all the strange things that happened in Welshport, and that perhaps if he were more superstitious himself, he wouldn't be as easily caught off guard. The difference between the two new colleagues was stark. He was older, white hair, pot belly, and she was young, dark hair, fair skin, and a willingness to seek out many things in the world that most people in her position would think were too far-fetched and imaginary. Welshport might be the best place for her. As Daniel was ushered off by another nurse, Dr. Ward's wife Laura entered from a side exterior, due with a basket of lunch in one hand and their granddaughter Samantha in the other. My, my, what beautiful faces, Dr. Wortley. Is it too late for lunch? Laura wondered. Not for me. I started late today. Let's have it in the garden, Peter said, walking his first two his first two ladies into a brightly lit garden courtyard between the main hospital and the Churchill Green mental ward. As the threesome sat on a blanket Laurel had carefully quilted together herself, they ate grapes and cheese, a bit of small sandwiches, and iced tea to cool some of the afternoon. Little Samantha, now 4 years old, played in the grass, picking ants. The long blades of grass tickled the bottom of her bare. Did you have a chance to write Rebecca? Asked Laura as she nibbled on a sandwich. She shook her head no as she watched Samantha in the grass. Laura, he began before she interrupted. She doesn't want to hear from me, Peter. I've already thought about it. I know she'd rather stick her head in a burning furnace than ever hear from me again. Oh, darling, you don't know that at all. She began. She's been through so much over the years, and your friendship was such a relief that perhaps she'd welcome the reconnection. It's only a letter anyway. The worst that could happen is she never returns the note, Peter answered. No, the worst that could happen is that she comes to our house in a rage and slaps me across the face, having the audacity to contact her again after all these years. I know her, Peter. She doesn't want to hear from me. It doesn't matter how much has changed because Rebecca Lockwood Lord Castledor never forgets a grudge. Surprise. I think she'd let it on simple grudge slip through the memory gap with all those last names she has to remember, Peter giggled. Laura lifted her brow. That's not funny. Look. Trouble between you two was so many years ago. She's gotten through it by now, Peter said as he touched his wife's hand softly. I have to believe she has never forgotten, she's never forgiven me for what happened. She never forgiven me for introducing her to Eliza Good and allowing Eliza into her home. And then Laura couldn't go on with her memory of the horrible event that occurred. She never blamed for his death, Peter said, after being a bit of silence between them. I'm just I'm just as culpable because I was the one who thought Eliza could help her. And what happened was the worst thing that could have happened, the young mother explained. You didn't know Eliza would accidentally make Rebecca barren and not bring Ruby back like you thought. She could that but again, for all of this is quite a stretch of the imagination. It's a lot to even take in. Those supernatural games you all believed in back then, quite silly to begin with. I mean, the very idea that Eliza had that power in the first place is Peter paused. He couldn't even muster the word to describe how silly he found, found it all. Instead of words, Peter made a silly face towards like Samantha to express himself. She giggled in the background on the grass. "Oh," Laurel said, slapping her husband's arm. "All that feels like a century anyway." Anyway, Rebecca was my friend, employer. I gave her so many years of my life working at town, and I really wanted to help her. Eliza had this reputation of doing those things, bringing someone back to life. I heard so many stories that she could. I just thought it would work for Rebecca too. She said, tears in her eyes. "You see that no one can do that, don't you?" Peter wondered. Laura did. She had also lost her own son, daughter-in-law. Samantha's parents, in a horrible accident, left the child an orphan. Laurel never thought once of seeking out supernatural means to bring them back. It was a harsh reminder of the situation, a situation that turned out much different than everyone truly believed. Of course, Laurel said, tears now rolling down her pink cheeks slowly. "You meant well. I know that for sure," said as he scooted over on the blanket and kissed his wife on the cheek. "Reach out to Rebecca. I know that she'll say the same." Laurel turned her head slightly out of her husband's kind gaze and watched happy little Samantha, with her blonde hair glowing bright in the afternoon sun, as she ran on the grass after a monarch butterfly fluttered through the air low enough that it seemed to be playing with Samantha too. See, Laurel replied. Lauren only wanted to repair the friendship she had she held so dear in her heart. But only time would tell the truth. Laurel held much more in her heart than that tragedy of his death. Another child from back then, too, held a special place. Guilt, her guilt in her heart. As the sun began to set and the clouds in the sky covered a half moon fresh and silver in a distant position, purple toned sky, Fatima Braga ran her finger across the ledge of a middle bookshelf, feeling the bumps of the spine of the ancient books. She worried for her sweet Philip, the boy she gave up at birth, when her scandalous affair with a priest in Lisbon while she was a nun broke her faith. She could not be there for him when he was a child due to her family shame, but she wanted to be there for him now as the full moon approached. As her finger ran across the shelf, it stopped on a book, Portuguese language telling of a man whose life was turned upside down by a dark event in his life. A curse as she pulled the book to read from it. A knock came at the door, startling Fatima in her own home. She walked slowly to the door, hoping a passerby she wanted their who who wanted their fortune told, and when she opened the door, there stood Mary, holding little Caleb, Charlotte, and Morgan. You should not be here, Fatima growled. You know he's here, Fatima. You know you have Philip. I want to see him, Mary ordered sternly. Impossible. We have to know how he is, Charlotte objected. Have to be sure he's okay and that he's not sicker. God, he is sicker than you thought, Fatima said. And we should see him now, Mary demanded. Please. Fatima looked at the beautiful blonde Mary who had a scar over her hair. Tut held the baby in her arms. She almost looked like a Renaissance painting of the Madonna child low in the light of the dusk. It's cold tonight, Morgan said. It took us a lot to get here from Good Island. Just want to see Philip. Save me. Fatima's heart broke with their sad faces. They loved Philip as she did. She could not hold them back anymore. Instead, aside letting them in from the cold air, sea air. I can't promise you that you'll see him, but I will promise you answers, Fatima replied. That's all we want. We just want to understand what has happened, why you kept him here, hiding, she added as Fatima stepped inside and allowed them in cool air coming off the sea. There is danger, Fatima began as she closed the door locked it. Morgan's eyes zeroed in, locked the door. Gulp. Danger, what kind of danger? Miriam shifted her weight to hold baby Caleb on her other hip. Every kind. Kind that wants to destroy. Kind that wants to kill. The kind that wants the world to end. Bloody, monstrous heat. What happened to Philip is something that is dark and evil. I am doing everything I can to protect him by doing so. To protect you and the world, Fatima explained. We know you know more than you're telling. Saw it in a vision. We could see you clearly. You're protecting him, but why? What is that happened to him? Maybe I can help. Said no. No, Fatima replied partially in her native Portuguese. Only I can help him now. I know what is to come. You're being unreasonable. You're not making any sense, Fatima. The more help you get from Philip, the better off he'll be. Are his family, Mary said as Caleb squirmed in her arms. Fatima sighed, realizing her indignation was causing frustration, but she wanted to keep as much to herself as possible. Her worry that the more involved others were, the more danger would spread to them as well. But it was no use. Mary, Charlotte, even the frightened Morgan required more and would stop at nothing making. I know he's in danger. I see it. I can feel it, Charlotte fast as his psychic abilities were stronger and stronger as she got older. Everything in his body is fighting itself. There is a rage, and there is anger. I sense it. It's all so powerful. Then you know what is to come, Fatima wondered. Charlotte did not reply. Mary could see her daughter was holding back. Then Charlotte began to wring her hands. She was nervous. She was hiding something that she knew, something she feared revealing. Charlotte, what is it? What have you not told me? Charlotte looked at Morgan, some kind of guidance in his eyes. What should she say? He knew she saw things that scared them both. Visions were so vivid and frightening. He was her best friend, and they'd grown so close in the last few months, comparing on lives like who'd come from the more broken home. Her parents, Jacob and Mary, were a disaster from the start. His Genevieve and Stephen were happy at first, soon crumbled like the city he once lived in, San Francisco, after the 1906 earthquake. Charlotte and Morgan had come two little ships lost at sea that found each other in the fog. Their broken families, best friends forever. Then, shocking them all, Charlotte spoke in Portuguese language she never spoke before in her loud 15-year-old life. Mary and Morgan expressed confusion, but Fatima translated. The man wolf, Philip, is the moon wolf. If you remove the man from here, he will kill. He will kill. So really, really good. Now, with Christopher, the question is obviously, is he really David? And though he doesn't, to her, he looks close enough like David. I think there's some sort of psychological explanation to if you look like somebody, you can slowly become that person. I've heard of that, like stuff like that, but I am curious to see what Caroline's secret is. She obviously, she's not really a Baxter. We'll see what goes on. I have suspicions. I have suspicions. Alright, link to Benight Beguile is going to be in the description box. Have a nice day.